Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Daily Dose with Nurse Alice. You know I love coming to talk with y'all. We get to talk about all things health, wellness, love, and lifestyle because my job is to help keep you informed and happy and healthy so you can live life well. And I know 2020 is off to a rough start. COVID-19 has been a pain in the butt, as well as some other things, or should I say people. And I mean my little people. Okay, guys. But to talk about this a little bit more, I want to bring on the expert, one of my dear friends, Dr. Jarret Payton. He is a board certified pediatrician with over 20 years of experience. He is an amazing father. He is a business coach, a speaker, as well as an author of several books. But the book we're going to focus on today is Whose Badass Kids Are Those, right? And we're hoping it's those because you never want it to be yours. So welcome, Dr. Jarret. How are you?
I'm doing great, Nurse Alice. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm ready for my daily dose.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to have you because listen here. Listen, now I know we are in the health profession and we're friends, but listen, we both have kids and COVID has changed, things as we know it. These kids are at home. So now we are teachers, counselors, and everything else in addition to being parents. And some of these kids might be cutting up a little bit. So I'm so glad you wrote this book and we're going to get into it. But first, if you can tell me, what was your inspiration for writing this book?
For years and years as a pediatrician, we would be talking about asthma, maybe being a little overweight, talking about diabetes. We talk about growth, development. There'd be so many things that we talk about in those exam rooms. But parents oftentimes would have questions about behavior. And by then the office visit was over. It was time to reschedule, and we never really got into that. And in my own personal life, my first two kids, they came out and things went pretty well. They were well behaved. They kind of raised themselves almost. But it was that baby, when that baby came along, I had to take my own parenting skills to a new level. And I said, well, I never had enough time to talk about it in the office visits. And I certainly needed to get help myself. So I wrote this book for parents all across the nation so they would be able to get better behavior out of their kids, just like I was able to with mine.
Now, listen here. Let me tell you something. I'm glad you wrote this book. I do wish I would have gotten this at at the OB visit. Like, oh, you're pregnant. Here's this book. Start reading because lots of gems in this book. And I'll say this: I I have four kids, and some of them easier to raise than others. Some have had more issues than others. But I don't know. Is there actually a universal definition for a badass kid, or is there such a thing as a badass kid gene? Or I'm just trying to figure this out because is it me how I raise them? Is this like a nature or a nurture problem? I mean, you referenced that in your book. Can you elaborate a little bit more so our viewers will know?
Absolutely. And when we're looking at kids, if the truth be told, there's not really such a thing as a good kid or a bad kid. They're just kids. And I define a badass kid mainly by people I would see by observation. And I know you guys know who those people are. You may be sitting in church. You may be in the grocery store. You may be walking through the mall. And you see somebody cutting up and you say, whose badass kids are those? That's the definition of a badass kid. And when you're looking at nature or nurture, a lot of what kids do, they learn by example. They learn by what they see other people doing, not always by what they are told to do. So we as parents, we have a lot of influence on our kids, and how our kids will ultimately behave winds back up on our table for the most part. That's why we have the book, and that's why we have to work on our parenting skills all the time.
Absolutely, because parenting did not come with instructions. If it did, it was not in my bag. And so I missed out on that one. And I'll tell you this, though. So, Dr. Jerry, when we were in the store and we see somebody's little Johnny over there on the ground, I want ice cream, I want ice cream. No, I'm not going to. All I have to do for the most part is look at my kids like, you see that over there? Mm-mm. It's like a look. It's like a look. So that for the most part, I like to think that that's me. It's like how I've nurtured them and raised them. But I do have some friends who seem like really good parents. They do everything they can, but they still have badass kids. So is it still possible? Because, and you know, and at school, when kids cut up, they blame the parents. So is it possible that you can still be a good parent and still have some badass kids?
Yes, absolutely. So if you have some badass kids, don't lose all hope and don't put all the pressure on you. You actually, there's a combination of things that go into children's behavior. So some of it is nature, some of it is nurture, but a lot of it is by example. But there are other medical conditions, maybe behavioral health conditions that can make their behavior be even more of a challenge. So that's why I always recommend people work with their pediatrician as a starting point when they're talking about behavior.
That's good to know because I mean we think of height and weight and head circumference and all that stuff, but we also need to make sure we pay attention to their behavioral, cognitive development, and all of those other things. And so, Dr. J, I'm just going to jump into your book because listen here, I took lots of notes. You can see it's flagged, it's highlighted, all underlined, everything like that. But in your book, and let's see, on one of the chapters, you reference how consistency is something that does a lot for a child's well being and has a positive effect on their behavior. With COVID-19, nothing has been consistent. So, what can we anticipate? Will there be some long term effects because of COVID-19 on our children's development? I mean, both good and bad. What can we anticipate?
One of the best things that you can do during the summertime, during a COVID-19 quarantine, or anytime is to help keep your kids on a schedule. The schedule has to be something that is something they can rely upon. And so during these at home schooling and at home quarantine days, there should still be a wake up time. There should still be a breakfast time. There's going to be some sort of school time or activity time. And they're, going through the day, you're going to have other meals planned and finally bedtime. So there should be a basic schedule. If you go to parentbrigade.com, I actually have an outline that you can have of a daily schedule that you can use in your home if you're having a tough time getting your kids on a schedule. By having your kids on a schedule, they are on a routine. There's something that provides a little bit of consistency in their life that they can rely upon because let's face it, them being taken out of school and having to do some sort of home learning was far from ideal circumstances for us. Furthermore, kids kind of use school as a socialization time. It was a part of their routine. So all of a sudden, that, riding on the bus or being dropped off at school or walking to school doesn't happen anymore. Their whole plan gets thrown out the window. So I tell parents, as much as you can keep them on a schedule, stay on a schedule. And if you can be consistent with all the rules and regulations you have in the house, it will lead to a better behaved child.
Now, Dr. Jarret, as we kind of wind this interview up, I do have one important question. Not just one, but something that's been on my heart here, this question. So, because we've taken away from school, they can't do their activities, they couldn't go to prom, they couldn't do all these things. How do you discipline children in the time of the COVID-19 era when most of their privileges have already been taken away? Because, like you said, they might be cutting up, they might be, becoming badass kids. How does a parent tackle that when because I can't say you're not playing in the game this Saturday. Oh, no problem for you. Like I don't have that opportunity to use that as leverage anymore. What can parents do during this unique time to discipline their kids?
Discipline is something that hopefully comes as a last resort, but there has to be some way to modify and monitor your kids. So discipline, even during the COVID times, can be there. And we talk a lot about this on the Who's Badass Kids or Those classroom. You can go to nobadasskids.com to find out more about that. But looking at discipline in and of itself, discipline has to be consistent. If there are a certain set of rules that your children are not following, pandemic or no pandemic, you must be consistency in dealing out that discipline. And Nurse Alice, you're absolutely right. They're not on their sports teams anymore. they're not going out to dances and parties at school anymore. They're not having sleepovers anymore in many parts of the country. And in this case, you have to look at some of the other things that may work. So this may say, okay, well, I can't take away any of the things that I normally would take away. Okay, maybe we'll take away the cell phone for a period of time. Maybe we will have to get you to bed lights off earlier, or in some cases it may need to just wake up earlier in the morning. Maybe that's more of a penalty. You're going to have to rearrange some of the things that you would ordinarily do and some of the things that you would ordinarily hold over your child's head. So it takes a little adjustment. But I'm not giving anybody a free pass on just letting their kids run wild, do whatever they say, just because COVID is here. They have to take some time and pay some sort of penalty if they're infracting on the rules.
I'm with you, Dr. Jarret. No passes. I don't care. World pandemic or not. Get little Johnny together. Because if not, next time I see you in the store, I'm like, listen here, let me slide this in your purse because you need this. So, Dr. Jarret, it's always a pleasure talking with you. I love, love, love this book. To all the parents, soon to be parents, educators, anyone who's dealing with children, this is a book to have because, it's really helpful with identifying issues with children, even before they get to the kind of that badass label. Let's rescue them before that, because once they're, babies, badass kids, that's a whole, we don't, let's start early. Let's be preventative with some of the measures. So reading this book, you'll get lots of great tools and information. Dr. Jarret, again, thank you so much. Can you tell our viewers more about, you were mentioning some classes. Do you have a workbook that accompanies this? Because I'm sure after this, you're going to have parents and educators like knocking on your door, like, where do I get that book? I need some help. So where can the people go so you can help them, Dr. Jarret?
Well, thank you. You can find more about me on social media at Dr. Jarret. Spell out the word doctor, J-A, 2 R's, E, 1 T. Or you can go to actually you can check out my latest book, because as Nurse Alice mentioned, that we have the level 1 book, which is the Who's Badass Kids Are Those. We actually have the level 2 book, which is the Who's Badass Kids Are Those Parenting Plan Workbook. And we get into specific detailed outline instructions on how to work through your kids. And we do this very well with our special COVID pricing of the Who's Badass Kids Are Those online course. Again, you can find that at nobadasskids.com. But Nurse Alice, I really would like to give your viewers a free gift today. May I do that?
Yes, we love gifts. Listen, y'all, only here on Daily Dose with Nurse Alice. I'm telling you. Go ahead, Dr. Jarret. What you got for them? How can they get this gift from you?
I will give you guys a 1 hour mini course. A 1 hour mini course. It's me and you. That's all it is. A 1 hour mini course. And you can get this by texting COVID-19 plan to 44222. If you text COVID-19 plan to 44222, that will give you the instructions how to get this 1 hour course absolutely free.
That is amazing. I was actually looking for my phone, like, oh my gosh, it's close by because I was going to go ahead. I know I'm probably not qualified for, it's for the viewers, but listen here, I could use that as well. Dr. Jarret, thank you for your generosity for our Daily Dose viewers. We are going to appreciate that. And listen here, y'all better text because that's some good stuff. Again, thank you so much for visiting the show. We'd love to have you back because, listen, these kids ain't going anywhere yet. My youngest is 13, so we're gonna need to be here for quite a few more years as this young man is growing up. And to everyone who has tuned in today, again, thank you so much for watching Daily Dose with Nurse Alice. This is your show, guys, for health, wellness, love, and lifestyle. We talk about everything you want to know so you can be happy and healthy, so you can live life well. Please make sure to like, follow, subscribe, all of those things, and make sure you tune in to our next episode. You won't want to miss it. We're going to have another great expert. I can't tell you right now. I'll tease you in a little bit. But again, thank you for tuning in, guys. And you know what? Be safe and live life well. Bye, friends.